welcome you. We're here to, Angel is here, Jamunajaya, Mataji, Hare Krishna, AJ. We're here to glorify the Lord. How wonderful is Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, can you put the verse on the screen, Ananda Bihari?
Yes.
We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the 9th canto. And I'm looking for the book here. You putting this verse on the screen, or should I get the book? This is very interesting portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We've been walking together through these verses about Pururava and Urvasi Mataji, his amorous endeavors, her rejection, his looking around to find her again. The Gandharvas offered him a substitute and he wasn't satisfied. Then he performed a sacrifice. Sacrifice is meant to please the Lord. And the intention of his sacrifice was that he could go to see Urvasi on the planet where she was residing. So it may not have been the highest intention, just like Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted to see the Lord so he could get a big kingdom, but he was engaging in the process of sacrifice. And this is a beginning. We are at different stages of renunciation. It's not one size fits all. Different people are on the different ashrams. We have different degrees of attachment to material life. But if we begin the process, Krishna, how wonderful is Krishna? Krishna will help us to go forward. There may be a certain level that we're at, but we never think, this is just where I'm going to stay. I'm at it. I'm not going any further. In spiritual life, there's progress. There's advancement. And just to say spiritual advancement, do this and you'll feel better. I mean, these are byproducts. But more specifically, this will please Krishna. We're trying to please the Lord. We are servants. I don't see that. Ananda Bihari, are you going to put this up on the screen or should I get the book?
It's up. Can you see it?
No. No one can see it.
I'm sharing the screen.
Well, I'll get the book.
Get the book. It's 9:15:11.
No problem. Alan has put the book someplace. Oh, wait a minute. Uh, 9:15:11.
Yeah.
Okay. Then chapter 15, verse, text 15 chapter, text 11. 9:15:11. Here it is. Okay. Okay. Prasadita yavat sat yavat ya Maivambor itibar gavaha atatahi pavet pautro jamadagnis tato bhavat. Pandita, pacified. Satyavatya, by Satyavati. Ma, not. Evam, thus. let it be. Iti, thus. Bhargava, the great sage. Ata, if your son should not become like that. Tarhi, then. Bhavet, should become like that. Patra, the grandson. Jamadagni, Petra, thereafter Abhavat was born. Translation and purport by his divine grace to the Prabhupada. Satyavati, however, pacified Chikamuni with peaceful words and requested that her son not be like a fierce Kshatriya. Rakamuni replied, then your grandson will be of a Kshatriya spirit. Thus, Jamadagni was born as the son of Satyavati. Remember, the king wanted a son, and the sage provided him with the oblations, one for his wife, one for his mother, and they switched up their oblation, the different kinds of drink, and so they were receiving different children based on the potency of the drink that they drank. Srila Prabhupada's purport: the great sage Richika was very angry because they switched up the oblations, but somehow or other, Satyavati pacified him, and at her request, he changed his mind. It is indicated here that the son of Jamadagni will be born, Parashuram. Okay. Please, everyone, please, everyone, offer a prayer to Krishna to bless us. And what we have to say here is only what we've heard from Shastra and Guru, with no distortion and no inappropriate motivation. Please pray to Krishna that we say what Krishna wants to say. The format of the Srimad Bhagavatam is that not that the speaker sits here and says, I wanted to say this. I thought I would say it. No. Lord, we're here on your behalf. Let us dance as you like. Be specific in your prayer. And certainly Krishna will grant that prayer. We gather together to hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a sacrifice. This is an offering to the Lord, and Krishna will be pleased. We're intending to please him, and he will be. Okay, so I was reading Bhagavad Gita. Interesting verse, because we're talking about devotees have different stages of renunciation. We always want to preamble these classes about renunciation with the understanding, if I think I'm better than anyone, Krishna will leave. The gopis were so intimately connected directly in Krishna's presence. As soon as they thought we are the greatest devotees, Krishna left them. So that is not our intention. By speaking about the different degrees of renunciation, we don't want anyone to feel disqualified, discouraged. Anyone can desire appropriately. We're free. Lord, I make mistakes. I'm fallen. I have material desires or whatever, but I offer myself to you. I want to please you. And certainly Krishna says, don't doubt that I will complete the good work I've begun in you. This is a fact. We can be encouraged that Krishna is working with us. All we have to do is desire properly. Savasya chaham mridisani viso matas mrityu jnanam apohanam cha. Vedaisya savaraha meda vido vedanti veda videva chaham. Krishna says he's there in everyone's heart. And if someone wants knowledge, he will give them knowledge. And if someone wants apohanam, forgetfulness, Krishna will grant that desire also. So what do you want? You get what you ask for, right? That's appropriate. So this is what I was reading in Bhagavad Gita. This is such a heavy verse. You've heard it before. Bhagaishvara prasaktanam taya pravritta. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. If my mind is too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and is bewildered by such things, I will not have the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Resolute determination. Srila Prabhupada is calling us to dedicate ourselves, dedication means, Lord, heart and soul, whatever I've got, I want to give to you. And certainly there's a need for maintenance, economic development. In one sense, that's to be done. There's so many things we do to maintain the body, eating, sleeping. What chapter and verse, Andrea? Oh, that verse is the second chapter, 44th verse. Second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 44th verse. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. What a tragedy. I mean, there are many people involved in devotional service, but there is some idea, I have to have some economic development, which is ridiculous. Wait a minute. Let me not say this. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada says. Seventh canto, 7th chapter, verse 41 and 42. 41. Irartha iha karmani vidvan man yasa krin naraha karotyato viparyasam amogam vindate palam. Srila Prabhupada's translation, not my idea. Radical to the person who is bewildered by the attraction for material opulence, comfort. Krishna says to Arjuna, abandon all desire for comfort and safety and fight for me. Translation, Srila Prabhupada's purport. A materialistic person, and this includes devotees who are mixed in their dedication, effort. A materialistic person, thinking himself very advanced in intelligence, continually acts for economic development. I'm going to read that again because it's radical. Because we have to have economic development. What are you talking about? That's not what Krishna says. Let's just say what Krishna says. A materialistic person, thinking himself very advanced and intelligent, continually acts for economic development. In these days, not everyone, some of the preaching in the Christian consciousness, get a job and make money and maintain your family, and then come to the temple on Sunday and give a donate. Wait a minute. A materialistic person continually acts for economic development, but again and again, as enunciated in the Vedas, he is frustrated by materialistic activities, either in this life or the next. The result one obtains are inevitably the opposite of those one desires. We're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to maintain our family. We're trying to pay the bills. We have to pay the bills. Therefore, we have to get a job. Therefore, we have to work for a karmi. I don't know. In an emergency, you can have a karmi job. But to go on and on with that doesn't seem to be advised. We can adjust. We can have a hybrid situation where even Kultivaja Srihar, he had a business. He was making banana cups, but he was giving half of his income to the worship of the Ganges. And his intention was not economic development. His intention was worship. That was his focus. That was his dedication. That was his priority. Srila Prabhupada's purport. No one has ever achieved the results he desires from material activities. On the contrary, everyone has been frustrated again and again. Therefore, one must not waste his time in such materialist activities for sensual pleasure, either in this life or the next. One should not waste his time. So many nationalists, economists, and other ambitious persons have tried for happiness. Individually or collectively, but history proves that they have all been frustrated. In recent history, we have seen many political leaders work hard for individual and collective economic development. It's such a dirty word. I mean, we think economic development is good, but Shastra says we have seen many political leaders work hard for individual economic development and collective economic development. Wow. But they have all failed. This is the law of nature, as clearly explained in the next verse. Srila Prabhupada's translation. This is what my guru said. In this material world, every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminishes his stress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as he begins his activities for happiness, the condition of distress begins. We hear people, devotees, preaching, you got to be happy, otherwise you can't go on in spiritual life. Well, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, their appearance and disappearance, are like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. This is due to the sense perception. One must tolerate happiness and distress coming and going like winter and summer. One must tolerate and not be disturbed. What is not disturbed? We don't feel the heat. We don't feel the cold. We don't feel happiness and distress. No, what's not disturbed is our devotional service to Krishna. Therefore, it's very important that we have a relationship with the spiritual master. And we get to the point, the Kurukshetra moment where we say, happy talks, friendly talks are over. Now I am a disciple. I am a soul surrendered to you. I will do what you ask. And when the spiritual master says, do this, and we endeavor for that, everything else will be there. We have to have prescribed duty and a relationship with the spiritual master where we open our heart and say, Srila Prabhupada, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied to do that. And ahetukiya prati ata, unceasing, unmotivated devotional service to Krishna is the only way to satisfy the self. It's not like we do 50% for work and 50% for family and 50% for this and that, and then we do some service. No, if I'm sleeping and I'm sleeping so that I can serve Krishna, that sleeping is service. If I'm working even to generate income so that I can do my prescribed duty, that work for economic development is devotional service. The point is, why do we do what we do? Who are we doing it for? So we're hearing these different pastimes where individuals are requesting this, desiring that, sacrificing to get this and that. And sometimes Bhagavatam shows us what to do, and sometimes Bhagavatam shows us what not to do. Don't be ridiculous. Don't get distorted. There are other voices. We were listening to Vaisheshekha the other day, and he was saying, he was going somewhere and he accidentally put 2 GPS programs, opened up 2 of them on his phone. And one was telling me to make a right turn and one was telling me to make a left turn. But sometimes there are 2 voices. Look at Bali Maharaj. Vamanadev, the Lord came before him and said, can you give a donation? So that was one voice, give a donation. And another voice said, Shukracharya, he's a guru. Oh, no, don't give him. That's Vishnu. He'll take everything. He'll take everything. Don't give it to him. So there's two voices there speaking. We had an opportunity collecting donations for Krishna's Prasad distribution. We spoke to, what's his name? He's a prominent broadcaster, the guy with the mustache and wavy hair, salt and pepper hair. You remember, you know his name, Ananda Bihari? Gosh. Anyway, he pulled up. I was standing at a traffic light, speaking to each vehicle as it came by, and stopped at the light. And he had this big white, I think it was a Cadillac, it was some kind of fancy car, convertible. So the window was down, the roof was down. He was by himself. He wasn't listening to the radio or anything. And he stopped there. He was just 1 foot away from my nose, my big nose. And I said, sir, I recognized a very prominent, famous, still today, he was just in the news this morning. What's his name? Anyway, I said, sir, may I speak to you for a moment? He looked at me, you know, I was standing next to his car door. What do you, I gave him a little shloka sticker and I said, you know, we're distributing meals for the homeless here in the East Village, and we're asking if you give a donation. And he was stunned. I told this to you guys before. And it's not,
Geraldo Rivera. Is that the guy?
Geraldo. I said, Mr. Rivera, may I address you as Geraldo? You may address me as Geraldo. What is it? What do you want? Geraldo Rivera, right? He said, what is it? What do you want? He said to me, kid, and I was about 60 years old at the time. I was wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt and he called me kid. Kid, I'm feeling conflicted. You know, we talked about hearing two voices. He said, I hear a voice telling me not to do this. And on the other side, there you are smiling. I've been embedded in war zones with troops on the battlefield. I've confronted corrupt politicians at the highest level. I've talked and interviewed many, many famous people, but I've never felt as uncomfortable as I feel right now because you're asking me to do something and I hear this voice telling me, don't do it. I said, Geraldo, this is something genuine, that we do this in God's name. He said, oh, now it's God. I said, yes, we're not afraid to say that we're trying to serve God. And we're encouraging you, you should give a little donation. It's good for you. Yeah, he gave me one of these. And he gave $1. But that's our situation. On one hand, there's the spiritual master, there's the scripture saying, don't endeavor for economic development. Don't try to get money. Give Lakshmi. Lakshmi loves to run and jump into Krishna's arms. Lakshmi is a person, and she loves to run and jump into Krishna's arms. So when we use Lakshmi in Krishna's service, it's a good thing. So that was kind of a profound exchange. And we're going to read Srila Prabhupada's purport here, this next verse. He said there, as long as one endeavors for happiness, his condition of distress begins. As soon as we're thinking, I want this, I don't want that, mental platform, me. No. I am part and parcel of Krishna. I'm spirit soul. I'm a servant of Krishna. Well, maybe we'll open this up for a discussion because I don't want to talk too much. We made the point, serve Krishna, don't worry. Or don't serve Krishna, and try for your own happiness, your own economic development. Andrea looks like she's ready to jump in here. What do you have to say, Mataji? She's laughing.
Hare Krishna, Adi Purusha Prabhu. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I was at the edge of my seat. I hadn't heard it before, so I wasn't sure what he was going to do. And I was thinking Geraldo Rivera, but I was like, no, it couldn't be. Why would he be in the Lower East Side? But, Krishna works in mysterious ways. I just, all of this just makes me think about, the verses in the Gita where Krishna gives the breakdown of, this is the topmost way to serve him. And then if you can't do that, then he breaks it down and he goes down lower and lower and lower. Right. And it just, I like that you started all of this with the kind of disclaimer of that nothing of what you're saying is to discourage anyone, and it's to just understand that there's different levels of where we can be. And it's good to know what the ideal is so that we can slowly work to it. Right. And then, but again, I just love that Krishna includes in the Gita, like he says the same thing. He's like, this is the ideal, but if you can't do that, and then he keeps going down until, the bare minimum. And he's like, and I'm willing to accept that too. So it just made me think of that.
Actually, Krishna is pleased if we do our sincere best. However it might look materially, however there might be somebody who's doing more renounced, but Prabhupada was so radical. Now, religion in America, when I grew up, when I was a kid, religion in America basically for most people meant you have a job, you have a house and family, you go to church on Sunday, Haribol, I'm a good person. And then Prabhupada said, move in the temple. I read the first BTG article I read about was that a couple who moved into the temple. I was thinking they moved in the temple? They moved into the temple? What are they talking about? And they work full time in devotional service. What could they possibly do? Church is an hour on Sunday. Prabhupada said no. And that's why Srila Prabhupada, there was some splashing, some sparks, because he was saying, Sarva Dharman Parityaga. Abandon all other responsibilities, dharmas, and surrender to me. He wanted us to give ourselves. And Krishna, he starts with something small, but he's like Vamanadev, he's going to take it all. But when we understand that, it helps, It's actually painless, like they have painless dentistry, Krishna's going to help us to go forward. Let's see if anybody else wants to. Yasodhya Prabhu is here, erudite, advanced leadership management person. You have anything to add and correct, modify, enhance? Anybody else? Angel's here. Shamunajaya, Mataji. We like to hear everyone's voice. Here she is, the biggest girl in the universe.
Haribol, Adi. Thank you so much for class. I too was thinking Geraldo Rivera, even though I haven't thought about him for years before you said it, but just when you said the mustache, I was like, but thank you for that story. And I really am appreciating the moment you said, you started to say, let me say, and then you said, no, let's see what Srila Prabhupada said. And you went back to the text, and it's such a reminder before we go, it's not what I think, it's not what I say. Let me go back to the acharyas, let me go back to the book. So it's such a powerful reminder, because oftentimes we can get, well, here's what I think. It's not what I think. It's not what pleases me. It's what Krishna says and what pleases Krishna. So in that moment, it was just like such a good reminder. Yes, this is the consciousness we should be in.
We can relax when we start hearing from scripture. It's not just somebody's, opinion or what they want to say or what they feel or what. Wait a minute, hold it, stop the music. We just want to hear the truth, And Shastra is just like when you have a knife and you're using it, it gets dull. Shastra is it sharpens the consciousness, and it may seem You know, when you drop a little drop of water into the hot ghee, you ever do that? Shastra is like that because we get a little dull. We get a little bit comfy, cozy, spiritual life. And we're reading in a Bhagavatam, it was a couple of months ago, where it said there's a clear distinction between religious activities, which are meant for our own comfort, and devotional service to Krishna. And the very beginning of Bhagavatam, the second verse, Haitava Dharma, the Bhagavatam says, this, what we have to say here, rejects cheating religion. And we can all slip down into that comfort zone philosophy with religion without sacrifice. Even I was listening to, what's his name, that, gosh, I'm getting old and senile, Billy Graham. And he said, some people want religion without the cross. That's me. I want this nice little happy, warm fuzzy religion without the cross. And I was reading this thing Martin Luther King said, the cross is something that you bear and eventually you die on. I'm realizing that this is something pretty serious, take up your cross and follow me, the Lord said. One devotee from India sent me this cartoon where all these people are walking along carrying crosses, right? And then one guy, he's thinking, God, this is such a heavy cross. And he cuts off the bottom of the cross about 3 or 4 feet. So he has this tiny little cross. And then they get to this place on the trail where there's this gap, like a chasm. And everybody else puts their cross down and walks across, but his isn't long enough. We don't want to trim away the cross, For regulative principles, 16 rounds, the brahmachari lives in the house of the spiritual master only for the sake of the spiritual master's mission. Total surrender. We're talking about total surrender. We're not talking about nibbling around the edges. We're not talking about playing with the perimeter. Jump in. What's the use of having 1 foot on the boat and 1 foot on the dock? You're not going anywhere. Right? So, some classes are about introducing people to Krishna consciousness, and some classes are a little bit about fire and brimstone and squeezing the devotees to a little more, hold on, let me just not get so many things. Vaisheshika was telling me a couple of days ago, we clutter up our life with things we don't need and ideas we don't need. And it's just like a morass of, and the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord will not take place if we get a little too soft. We're at the level we're at, but we want to, like Mataji was saying, don't forget the ideal. Do your best. Krishna will be pleased with you, and you can desire properly and go forward. I'm talking too much. Who else wants to talk? We want to hear everybody. Ananda Vihar, you ready to jump in there?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
ready. You were mentioning Vaisheshika Prabhu, and I heard him speak on this subject. For a devotee, for a practicing devotee, should we strive for comfort so we can be peaceful and practice spiritual life, or we should just go full speed, and the more troubles we have, the better. I can surrender, I can get through. So he said, he quoted this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:10. Kamasya nendriya pritir labo jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nar hoyas cheha karmbihi. Translation: life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life, jiveta, that's the word, jiveta, a healthy life, or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's work. So when we, and Vaisheshika Prabhu said that jiveta, self-preservation, means balanced life. So not a comfort zone philosophy, as you rightfully said, it's not the purpose. the comfort zone. Nothing happens in the comfort zone. I mean, what to speak of bhakti? But the balanced life and a healthy life of self-preservation, Bhagavatam advises that we situate ourselves in such a way so we can be balanced and healthy and
So that we
practice devotional service. Yeah, so
that
we can serve nicely. Yeah, yeah.
whatever you do so that you can serve Krishna is devotional service.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just to add to what you perfectly said about comfort zone thing.
We're not saying we're masochists. We don't beat ourselves over the head or with whips and chains. Some people do that. But we do want to remember Krishna's calling us to surrender. Religion without surrender, Prabhupada said. They want religion without surrender. They want the guru in the box. Look at Radhanath Swami. Look at Radhanath Swami. I mean, he has the simplest couple of pieces of cloth and speed bag and he's preaching, vigorously day and night, giving every bit of his time and energy and his attention, his loving care for his disciples. It's so wonderful. But he's not accumulating a bunch of things.
Just wanted to ask another question quickly. You mentioned something about the karmic job. So for a devotee, working for a person who is not a devotee and who is telling him what to do, how this is not conducive to bhakti. And my question is that a disqualification if somebody has a karmic job, as we call it sometimes? Is that a disqualification? Or on the other hand, if there is a devotee who doesn't have a karmic job, who is self-employed, for example, but he's being materialistic. He's striving for, is that a passage?
Of course, there's so many ways we can make a mistake. And it depends on what Krishna is asking you to do. If Krishna says, stay in this company, be a good influence in there, preach in that. Look at Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was a magistrate, but he used his position to put forward religious principles. He was a family man, but he engaged his family in Krishna's service. It's not an end unto itself. So anything can become a facility for devotional service, or it can erode our resolute determination to engage in the service of the Lord. We have to be very careful. We have to be careful with fire in the kitchen. You can burn yourself. You can heat the house. You can light the house, or you can burn the house down. You have to be careful with a knife. You have to be careful with Lakshmi. You have to be careful with sexuality. And these are not things that are meant to stifle you or make you miserable, or this is the loving care of the Lord and the spiritual master calling us to a higher level of dedication in Krishna's service. There's a practical application of the philosophy. It's entirely different for every single person. It depends on what Krishna is asking you to do. If Krishna asks you to go out on the battlefield and kill your grandfather and your relatives and your teacher, we do it, right? I mean, it may seem against the norm. It may not seem, but we do want to remember that the point is Sangsadiya Haritoshanam. If something is done to please the Lord, and it's what the Lord is asking us to do, then it's perfect. Entirely different for everyone. But the danger is there, so word of caution is appropriate.
Yeah, Vaisheshika Prabhu said, Krishna will make it abundantly clear when it's the time for you to, get married or move or quit the job, get a new job. Krishna is looking out for us, and he makes it clear from the heart when it's time to quit. I personally experienced that, and it's been so great to have Krishna.
How wonderful is Krishna?
Yeah, how wonderful is Krishna?
We're here to glorify the Lord. Radhanath Swami told us one story of a brahmachari who was tested. And he said, we're all being tested. Krishna's giving us situations. And he was living a very renounced life, serving the spiritual master. He had a little hut out in the garden behind the temple where he would chant. And this one Mataji was very attracted to him. So she began to put on perfume and dress nicely and jewelry and makeup. And she would go back and forth and when he was out there. And she saw that he wasn't distracted from his japa and everything. And then she began to realize, Krishna gave her the realization, you know what I'm doing is evil. I'm trying to pull this person down from his dedication and his focus on serving Krishna. And so she began to wear simple clothing, no perfume, no makeup, no jewels. And she began to come to the temple programs. She began to do service. And she did this for several years. And the guru, he noticed that. And he just said, he came to the brahmachari and said, I have a test for you. There's this Mataji, very nice girl, really seems to be serious about spiritual life. And she's been in my care. And I'm looking for someone who would accept the service of marriage. And so I have a test for you. So at first, the brahmachari was thinking the test is whether to get married or whether to stay brahmachari. Seems like right test, right? But the brahmachari praying to Krishna said, I think the Lord is telling me that I should ask you what you want me to do. I'm willing to be married. I'm willing to stay brahmachari, whatever you like. And the Guru said, you passed the test. The test wasn't marriage or not marriage. The test was whether or not you're going to ask your spiritual master, what do you want me to do? I'm willing to do either. That's kind of an interesting criteria for success, right? And you're right, Krishna will answer you. We're running out of time here. I always have to leave at 8 o'clock so that I don't always get to.
One more minute. Is there a room for our discretion, our judgment, our responsibility, our taking the decision, or is just Krishna and the Guru?
Krishna can give you intelligence. Many spiritual masters, what they do is they tell the disciple, figure out how you can serve Krishna best. It gives you the responsibility. But it's never wrong to say to the spiritual master, I feel like Krishna is encouraging me to change my ashram now. I feel like Krishna is asking me to change my employment situation now. I feel like Krishna is asking me to get a bigger house or whatever. It's not wrong to put it before the Lord, right? Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Marianne Williams says, we know we're supposed to surrender to God, but we're thinking, my finances, my romances, I better take care of that myself, because if I turn that over to the Lord, he might mess it up, right? It's tricky how Maya works, you know? We're thinking that this is essential for my happiness, so I better take care of myself. I shouldn't put it before the Lord. But if it's essential for your happiness, don't you think Krishna wants you to be happy? Don't you think Krishna knows what's best for you? And we were just talking to, I'm not going to say his name, he's in India now, but he told me his spiritual master told him not to accept this second marriage and asked him to come and serve with him in London. And he didn't follow that. And the second marriage was a complete disaster. But I mean, why not put it before the Lord and then say, I'm willing to do this or that? I have to go now, but if you want to continue discussion, you can go.
Hare Krishna, devotees, does anybody have a realization that they would like to share?
Okay, how wonderful is Krishna? Glory to Krishna.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
And I thank you asked me to give class today, and I said, please pray for me that
Thank you, Haribol.
what Krishna wants. I'm sure you did. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I did.
Because I don't trust myself. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna.